What's up, sports fans? This is the Lucas Ross Sports Channel. We continue here with my 2024 college football schedule preview and projected record series. Up next are the Tennessee Volunteers before we preview their schedule for 2024 and give them an early projected record based on how tough their schedule is. Let's take a look at what Tennessee did back in 2023. Here were my projections and predictions last year for Tennessee. My projection had them at 9-3, and then my prediction for them was also 9-3 last year in 2023. Tennessee, though, just came up short of my projections and predictions last year. Tennessee going 8-4 last year in 2023. Again, this is based off from the regular season from last year. But if you want to count their bowl game victory, Tennessee officially went 9-4 last season in 2023. So Tennessee coming off a bit of a step back from where they were in 2022, and here was the schedule last year for Tennessee in 2023. You look at who they played in the non-conference. They played Virginia, Austin Peay, UTSA, and UConn, so they had a pretty favorable non-conference schedule, took care of business in all four of those non-conference games, and then you look at their four losses last year on the schedule from 2023. They lost to Florida, Alabama, Missouri, and Georgia. Florida, Alabama, and Missouri were all road games here for Tennessee, and then, of course, they lost to Georgia at home. So they had a pretty tough schedule last year in the SEC. Had to play Florida and Alabama, of course. That ended up being their toughest road games here on the schedule. And then, obviously, Missouri, which was an 11-win team last year. So, again, Tennessee coming off a bit of a step back from where they were in 2022. Let's now look ahead to 2024 at the schedule. Here is that schedule for Tennessee for the upcoming season. And before we go game by game, let's take a look at who Tennessee will play in the non-conference. This is their non-conference schedule. They will play Chattanooga, North Carolina State, Kent State, and UTEP. So this is their non-conference schedule. They will play 4 non-conference games here for 2024. Not a bad non-conference schedule for Tennessee, but when you got North Carolina State in there out of the ACC and everything, that makes the non-conference schedule a little bit tough here for Tennessee. But that game is going to be on a neutral site field this year. That game will be, of course, in Charlotte. Looking forward to this matchup here between Tennessee and NC State. Both of these teams are pretty similar last year in 2023, coming off 9-win seasons for both of these teams. So that's the non-conference schedule for Tennessee. Let's now go back to the original schedule here for the Volunteers, and let's go game by game now. So they'll start things off here with Chattanooga on August 31st. Then after that, there's that big game here in week number 2 on September the 7th against North Carolina State here. Again, this game will be in Charlotte, not either a home game here for both of these teams. I feel like there's going to be more Tennessee fans there. You know, they're just so passionate about, you know, these neutral site games. But I think it will be a really good, even crowd here in this game for both of these teams. And then after that NC State game, they do play Kent State here on September the 14th. So Tennessee will play 3 out of their 4 non-conference games here to start out the year of 2024 for their season. And then they open up SEC play here on the road at Oklahoma on September the 21st. Of course, Oklahoma, one of those newcomers in the SEC this year. We don't know how good they're going to be, but, you know, this is a very tough place to play to open up your SEC play here if you're a Tennessee fan. And then they get a bye week here after the Oklahoma game. It comes at the last weekend of the month of September. And then coming out of the bye week, they get to the month of October. They'll play Arkansas on the road here. So they got back-to-back road games here on September the 21st and October the 5th. The good news about these back-to-back road games is that you get a bye week in between them. So that's the good news there if you're a Tennessee fan. And then after that, they play rival Florida here at home on October the 12th. And then there's that big game at home against Alabama on October the 19th. And then after those 2 straight home games, you do get another bye week here at the end of the weekend of the, or actually the last weekend of the month of October as well. So you do get bye weeks at the end of the month and everything in the month of September, and then also the last weekend of the month of October as well. Then Tennessee here gets to the month of November. They'll play rival Kentucky here as well at home on November the 2nd. And then after that, there's a home game here against Mississippi State here on November the 9th. So from October the 12th to all the way to November 9th, Tennessee will play 4 straight home games. They do get their 3 most important rivals here, pretty much in the SEC, all at home, that they played on the road last year. They get Florida, Alabama, and Kentucky all at home from October the 12th to all the way to November 2nd. And plus, they do get a bye week here before playing Kentucky at home. But again, you play 4 straight home games after those back-to-back road game trips for Tennessee against Oklahoma and Arkansas, so that's a really good sign here for a Tennessee football fan. And then after that, they do play on the road here at Georgia on November 16th. That's a big-time game there coming up in the later part of November. And then they play their 4th non-conference game here against UTEP on November 23rd. And then they close things out here with Vanderbilt on the road on November 30th. So looking at this schedule overall for Tennessee, I think it's a pretty good schedule, and it's really a schedule that sets up nicely for Tennessee to have a really good season this year. Yes, they do play North Carolina State out of the non-conference, but Oklahoma, Arkansas on the road, those are very tough road games, and especially Georgia. I think Georgia is definitely one of the toughest road games here on this schedule for Tennessee. But, you got Florida, Alabama, Kentucky all at home this year, and then you got 4 straight home games after that Arkansas game on the road on October the 5th. So Tennessee, I think, has a pretty easy schedule for 2024. Let's now get to the projection here for Tennessee, and this is the scale I use here for my projections. If it's a 1% game in the red, pretty much these are games where Tennessee will be having no chance of winning and also not really a chance to compete in these games as well. 20% games in the orange, these are games where Tennessee will be about a couple touchdowns of underdogs. 40% in the yellow, games where Tennessee will be a heavy underdog in by about a touchdown. 50-50 games will stay in the white, games that can go either way. 60% games in the purple, Tennessee will be favored by at least a touchdown. And then the 80% games here in the blue, about a couple touchdowns of favorites. And then the 99% games here in the green, these are pretty much the easy wins here for Tennessee. And that's the percentage that we're going to start here with the Volunteers for their projection. Again, this is not an official prediction. This is simply a projection based on how tough the schedule is. So we'll start with the green games, the easy wins here for Tennessee at 99%. And I think you've got 4 of them on this schedule for Tennessee. You got Chattanooga, Kent State, and UTEP, and Vanderbilt. So I think Chattanooga, Kent State, and UTEP are pretty much all the non-conference games here that you're seeing in the green. I think all these games you can put them at least over 95%. I don't really see Tennessee struggling in these games. I think they win by at least like 30-plus points in all 3 of these non-conference games. And then Vanderbilt here on the road. I know that's a road game, and I know that's also an SEC opponent. But, I don't think it's over 95%. I think you can put at least Vanderbilt at 90% just because it's a road game and also it's a SEC opponent. But I think Tennessee is the more talented roster. And obviously, they have owned Vanderbilt these last few years, and I just don't know how good Vanderbilt's going to be this year. So with that being said, I think Tennessee, you can favor them in all 4 of these games, and mostly you can count them as wins already for Tennessee as well. So let's now go to the next percentage here for Tennessee at 80% in the blue. The games where Tennessee will be favored by a couple touchdowns. And I've got one game here on this schedule in the blue, and that's Mississippi State here on November the 9th at home. I think Tennessee will be favored by a couple touchdowns in this game. I know it's a game that should be in the green, but I think Mississippi State, based off of where they were last year, I think they'll be a very competitive team. If these 2 teams played last year, I think it would be a very competitive game, so that's the reason why I'm putting it in the blue. But I think, Tennessee will be favored by at least a couple touchdowns, and I think this is also another win here for Tennessee. Like I said, I count the green and blue games as wins, when I do these projections here for all these teams. So I think you can count that game as a win as well, a slight win here for Tennessee against Mississippi State. Let's go to the next percentage now for Tennessee, the games that they'll be favored by at least a touchdown at 60%. And I think you got 2 of them on this schedule, Arkansas and Florida, both here in the month of October, Arkansas on October the 5th, and then October the 12th for Florida. So I think Tennessee will be a slight favorite in both of these games. Arkansas and Florida are both pretty similar teams, both missed out on bowl games last year, and that's the reason why I'm putting these 2 games in the purple. Arkansas, just because it's on the road, I definitely have to put this one in the purple. If this game was at home for Tennessee, I would definitely put it in that blue, that blue color, and also in that 80% category. I know Florida beat Tennessee last year, but, based off of where Florida was last season, Tennessee was definitely the more better team, and I think Tennessee playing at home will be a slight favorite in this game against Florida. And I know that's a rival game. You never know what can happen. I'm going to go with Tennessee here as a favorite here by at least a touchdown. So those two games here, Arkansas and Florida, I think Tennessee, you can favor them by at least a touchdown in both of those games. All right, how about the games now where Tennessee will be underdogs in? I don't have any red or orange games in the 1% and 20% range, but I do have them as a heavy underdog in one of these games at 40% in the yellow, and that's the game against Georgia here on the road on November 16th. So I think Tennessee will be a slight underdog here in this game against Georgia on the road here on November 16th. It is in Athens. That's a very tough place to play, and a very tough road game as well for Tennessee. And plus, based off of how the last couple years have been going here, or maybe based off of the last 3 years, Tennessee just hasn't done a really good job against this Georgia team. They haven't been really competitive against this Georgia team either. And I just don't think Tennessee is quite on the level of Georgia just yet. I still think they got like really more years to go before they can really compete at the high level of Georgia anyway. So I think Tennessee will be a heavy underdog though in this game, even though it's on the road. I can't put this game in the red or orange just because I think Tennessee has enough talent to go in there and be a heavy underdog against this Georgia team. So Tennessee, I think that's the only game that they'll be underdogs in. Again, it's on the road at Georgia, and then the rest of the 4 games here in the white. North Carolina State, Oklahoma on the road, Alabama, Kentucky both at home. Pretty much these are my 50-50 games here for Tennessee that can go either way. You got North Carolina State. I think both of these teams are pretty even in roster-wise. Oklahoma, kind of hard to tell how good this team is going to be in the SEC in their first year, but I do expect them to be a very competitive team like they always are. And then Alabama, Kentucky, rival games. You never know what can happen here between both of these teams. And I think they are very winnable games for Tennessee. I think that Alabama game is definitely a winnable game now since Nick Saban is gone. So I think all these are 50-50 games here in the white, games that can go either way. Let's now get a projected record here for Tennessee. And I pretty much think they can win 2 out of those 4, 50-50 games as well. Forgot to mention that. But let's now get a projected record here for the Volunteers. So we count the green games as wins, and then you count the blue games as wins as well. Then you average out at 60% for those purple games. Then you average out the 50-50 games. And then you also average out that 40% game against Georgia on the road. That would give you a projected record here for this Tennessee team at 9-3 for 2024. So same projection for me last year for Tennessee. Like I said, I think the schedule really is not that tough for Tennessee. And like I said, this is based off of where the teams were from last season, and it's also based off of how tough this schedule is. And like I said, this schedule is not really tough for Tennessee. You got 4 straight home games right after those back-to-back road games with Oklahoma and Arkansas. Yes, you do play North Carolina State here in the non-conference. That's definitely not going to be an easy game. But I think Tennessee's schedule really sets up nicely for them to have a really good season. It wouldn't really shock me if Tennessee did go 10-2, maybe possibly 11-1 with the only loss coming to Georgia. But I think Tennessee can probably go 10-2, 9-3, but it would really shock me if this team did go 8-4 once again in 2024. But Tennessee, my projection for them is 9-3 for 2024. Give me your thoughts on this Tennessee team down in the comments below. What do you think their best case scenario and worst case scenario is for 2024? Let me know down in the comments below. Thanks for watching this video, and stay tuned here for more sports content videos on my Lucas Ross Sports channel.